Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Ecosystem and Ecosystem Coral Reef from Genius Games. Ecosystem is a 2-to-6 player drafting game of point optimization where you try to draft a variety of cards trying to figure out the most efficient way to score those cards. Ecosystem Coral Reef does a very similar thing with slightly different rules and adjustments, and I believe there's going to be an Ecosystem Savannah coming as well shortly. With that, let's go ahead and talk about Ecosystem because you're going to go ahead and draft 10 cards. You're going to go ahead and give the players 10 cards. Go ahead and just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 cards over here, and we'll go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards over here. And the reason for that is because we're going to go ahead and simulate drafting cards so we can go ahead and see how it would play out as you're playing with other players. And we have 8 cards over here. Let's simulate a 3-player game, just by only scoring myself, that is. We're going to go ahead and look at our hand of cards over here, and the first thing you're going to notice is there's no text on those cards. The good news is there are player aids. There's enough for every single player over here. There's got a full 6 player aids over here for all player counts. And we're going to go ahead and take a look what we got. We got very few rabbits over there, but the rabbits, I don't know if they're that helpful early on. I think I'm actually going to go ahead with a stream card, because there's not a lot of streams in here. We'll see what happens. We're going to go put a stream card in play. Now, you're going to be creating a 5x4 grid, and you could choose how to expand your grid, but once you place a card, it is locked. Now, we're going to go ahead and take this card, and we're going to shuffle up and get rid of a card. We're going to go back to here over here, and we're going to look at these next batch of cards, and again, we got that one stream. I think we're going to go ahead and lock in these streams early on, and then we're going to go ahead and, get rid of a random card, putting it down over here, and then we're going to take a look at these cards over here, see what we got, and oh my gosh, look at that, there's still a stream. At this point, the largest stream scores 8 points, so we could just lock in the stream. You know what? We're going to lock in the stream. We're going to go ahead and do it, lock in the stream. We'll explain why we're doing things in a second. Right now, we're just going to go through the process of playing out 10 cards. So we're going to go ahead and take our next batch of cards. One of these cards, actually, if we're playing a 3-player game, 2 cards get removed from every single round. That's going to be a thing we do over here. So we're going to remove another card and another card from this, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the next batch of cards. So over here, we're going to take a look at these and see what we got left. And we got we got fish and dragonflies. Now, trouts are going to score for adjacent dragonflies and streams, but then dragonflies are going to score based on the total size of adjacent streams, which we're clearly going for. So we're going to place that down here, shuffle this up over here, and then remove 2 cards. And then we're going to go ahead and see what we got from this next hand of cards. Do you have any more dragonflies? No, but we do have trout, and trout score for being next to dragonflies and streams, which is helpful if in the second round we can go ahead and get some more streams. We're going to go ahead and do that over there, and then get rid of 2 cards over here, and then take a look at this card, this hand of cards here. And we don't have any trout. We do have a fox, which is 3 points if it's not adjacent to any bear or wolves, which is not bad. We could do that. But we also have the eagle, which is 2 points for each trout or rabbit within 2 spaces. So you know what? We're going to go ahead and put the eagle up here, which is going to solidify the top of our grid. Let's slide everything down so you can properly see it. But now we have the top of our grid kind of solidified because it's a 5x4 over here. So we're going to go ahead and take this, shuffle it up, get rid of 2 cards, and then go back to our starting hand over here. And we have over here, we have the rabbit. The rabbit could be useful because you can switch the location of 2 cards, which is not bad. Do we want to do that? I don't know if it's worth doing that right now. We're going to go ahead and grab the bear over here. You know what? We could take the this one here. 2 points of each adjacent dragonfly and stream. It's also going to bump up that eagle because eagles like being within 2 spaces of trout. So that's going to be helpful as we go there. I'm going to shuffle this up, get rid of 2 cards, and then we're going to take this over here and see what we got. We got another trout, which I think we're going to put over here. We're really going to lean in on that eagle scoring over there. Get rid of this over here, put down these, and then take a look over here. We have that bear. The bear could be useful because bears will score 2 points for each adjacent bee and trout, which means we really should toss the bear over here because then it scores points for being next to that trout over there. Although in reality, if we're really, you know what? If we put this over here, that might be best because we might be able to put, you know what? No, we're just going to go ahead and stick this down here and call it a day. Then we're going to put this down, and we're going to see what we have for our last card. That's going to be a wolf, which is not a bad thing because you do get points for the most wolves, score 12, 8, or 4 points. We'll go ahead and put the wolf next to the bear down over here, and that's going to be, well, that would be limiting any more trouts, although I don't think we're going to put more trouts, so I'm not overly worried. We could put a bee down there, so you know what? We're going to put the wolf down over here. There we go. We got 10 cards. That would be the first round of play. Basically, in round 1, you're going to draft 10 cards. Every player is going to take 10 cards. You're going to go around passing those cards, picking a card every single round, placing it down to your grid, and then you're going to go ahead and do the same thing again with more cards. Now, this time around, I'm not going to really, go ahead and fully take a drafting experience. I'm going to simulate the second round by just throwing a bunch of cards out and then talking about how things score. But effectively, you have 2 rounds of drafting, 10 cards in each round. Now, in round 2, I'm going to go ahead and grab this bee. I'm going to put this bee down over here. The bee is going to go ahead and score points, 3 points points for each adjacent meadow. Speaking of which, we're going to go ahead and toss a meadow here, keeping in mind we're at our grid over here, and connected meadows score points as well. So let's go ahead and toss another meadow over there. Then let's go ahead and put down this the wolves over here. We still want more wolves because we want to score points for that. We do want to get another one of these situations going on over here, but also to that end, we also want to get another dragonfly if we can find one, but we don't have one. So instead, we're going to rely on placing this over here where it can go ahead and eat more trout. Speaking of which, we'll go ahead and see, do we have more trout? We do have more trout. So if we put this trout down over here, that's going to score as well. And again, keep in mind, this is simulating a play over here. This is not how you'd actually play the second round of play. We're going to go ahead and put down foxes score points if they're not adjacent to bears and wolves. So we can put a fox over there, and then we can go ahead and let's pretend we got stuck with this. Let's pretend we went ahead and got stuck with another random meadow over here unintentionally, because you know what? Especially at the end of the game, you don't always have things working out the way you want. And then we go ahead and score our ecosystems. That's now we're ready. This is basically a valid scored ecosystem. We have all 20 cards, 5x4 grid, and we're going to score as follows. And there is a score pad to go through over here. We're skipping that. We're going to score for each animal type, and then you're also going to score for diversity, which means you want to have a well-balanced ecosystem. And so the more things that are missing from your ecosystem, the more of either points you lose, or basically you get more points for having more scoring things in play, and not just focusing on one or two things. To that end, you're going to have your eagles over here. In fact, let's just go down the row over here. Our bears are going to score 2 points for each adjacent bee or trout, which means our bears score 4 points. Our trout score for dragonflies and streams next to them, which means this is going to be worth 2 points. This is worth none. 2, 2, and 2. So each of the trouts, we have 6 points from trouts. Then we have our dragonflies, which score you for the adjacent stream. So our dragonfly here is going to score us 4 points. We have our stream, the larger stream. Let's pretend we have the larger stream, is worth 8 points, or 5 for second place. Bees score 3 points for each adjacent meadow. So this bee is worth 3 points. Eagles are worth 2 points for every trout and rabbit within 2 spaces. So over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have again 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 total. So it's going to be 14 points for our eagles. Foxes are going to score 3 points each because they're not adjacent to bears and wolves, so 6 points for fox. Wolves score for 12, 8, or 4 points, whoever has the most. Let's pretend we have the third most for a mare, 4 points. Meadows score you points for your size of meadow, but a size 1 meadow is worth 0 points. A size 2 meadow is worth only 3 points. And then we don't have any deer and we don't have any rabbits, so we won't score for those. Speaking of not having deer and rabbit, because we don't have deer and rabbit, we did not score for 2 of the things. So since we only have a gap of 2 things, I think we score for bears, we score for trout, dragonflies, and streams, wolves, foxes. In fact, yeah, the only thing we're missing right here is deer and rabbits, which means we get a bonus points of 12 points because we're only missing 2 of the 11 possible scoring conditions. The more you're missing, the more points you either don't gain, or alternatively, if you're missing enough, you will even lose points instead. And that is basically how you play Ecosystem. Go through 2 rounds of drafting, 10 cards in each round. The 2-player mode does have a finicky aspect where you have a phantom hand that you remove cards from. Not that dissimilar to what you saw me doing over here in order to teach you the game. That's the 2-player mode, so you have more rotation, more cards in the cycles. You're not stuck with just having 20 cards per round, which could be a little limiting and could force you down chains that you're not really, it could just be a little limiting as far as the card pool if you don't have that extra hand of cards in play. As far as the review, starting off with ease of play, rulebook's incredibly easy to go through. I will say the lack of any text on the cards themselves makes for a slightly more aesthetic final result, but does mean that until you know the game, you're constantly referencing this sheet over here. It doesn't take that long to get a good feel for how the game plays and for what the cards do, but I'd rather have text on the cards myself. It takes a little bit away from how easy the game is to table and play. Past that, the game tends to play in a round. It's a 2 to 6 player game, so it does vary based on player count, but you're looking at generally anywhere between 20 to 45 minutes for the game. 45 minutes is on the longer end, but it could run that high at higher player counts. But yeah, 20 to 45 minutes for a quick drafting game of trying to score points as you build out a 20 size grid of cards. As far as what I like, don't like, and consider as not liking, although before we do that, let's talk about Ecosystem Coral Reef. I will say my feedback on the 2 games, my review of the 2 games, is nearly identical. But Coral Reef over here is a very similar system, except instead of the cards you see over here, you're instead dealing with various sea creatures over here, and you're going to have, again, each card's going to have, again, across the 11 cards, or maybe 12 cards, I have to double check, you're going to have different ways that they score. The difference is, instead of diversity scoring in this game, you're going to have 3 different types of cards. You can see the types on the bottom left corner over here. Those are different types, and the way that works is within each type of cards, you're going to look at your lowest scoring type and give yourself those points again. So effectively, you're trying to be well balanced in a similar way to the way diversity wants to be well balanced. You also want to be well balanced within the different ecosystems that Coral Reef gives you in the game. Past that, it's the same basic game. I will say that my one critique against Coral Reef, I think the gameplay itself is very similar. The cards are different. There's 1 or 2 cards that are the same, but for the most part, the cards are different. And so it's the same concept. If you like one, you'll probably like the other. The main critique is I find that, especially because you don't have scoring naturally on the cards, it's slightly easier to mentally resonate with what an eagle does compared to like different strains of coral or I don't remember what the names are. I don't remember. We have let's go through this over here. We have coral, we have krill, groupers, clownfish. This is based on my own immediate intuitiveness of a bear and a fox versus different types of fish means that disconnect of not having text and cards is slightly more present in Ecosystem Coral Reef. So before we get into the review, I'll say that if you're picking up one of these games, I would probably recommend Ecosystem first, and if you're looking for more variety within the same system, Coral Reef does a good job, and Savannah I have yet to play. Past that, as far as the review itself, what I think of the game and all that, starting off with what I like over here, which is the variable scoring puzzle at play. The fact that you have 11 different cards that score different ways, and you're trying to figure out how to draft those cards, how to get what you need, being able to actually look at a hand and get a sense of what's in play and what's coming back to you. If you're paying enough attention, especially at lower player counts, which is my preferred way to play this game. To me, this game at 3 players is probably best because of this facet, but you have that aspect of being able to see what's being picked and what's coming back to you, giving you more control over what you take, what you deny, what you keep for yourself as you go through it. At higher player counts, you have less control over your hands because, your initial hand of cards, you might only see 2 cards in the entire hand at higher player counts. The game still works very well though, but it has that variable scoring, that tableau. It has drafting, which I tend to like. It doesn't have the tenseness of some drafting games where every card feels like it matters, but you will have hands passed back to you. They're like, oh, I was hoping that card would make it around to me. And so you do have a sense of tension. You do have a sense of trying to figure out what works best for you, especially as you hand your cards to your neighbor, especially as you look at your neighbor. If you see your neighbors going for that largest group of wolves or that largest meadow, knowing what to pass them is a big deal because you're sitting there thinking, I don't necessarily want another stream I don't necessarily want another stream, I don't necessarily need another wolves. In fact, I really want to get that eagle because that eagle will be good for me, but that eagle might cost me a swing of 12 to 8 points, so it might not be worth it. You have to be mindful as you go through this. And that good player count variability, the fact that this game does work fairly well from 3 to 6 players, 2 players is a little fiddly. I don't love 2 players quite as much. I understand why you need to have an extra hand of 10 cards in play, but I don't like dealing with a phantom hand. I find it's very easy to lose track. Am I willing to play this game at 2 players? Absolutely. Is it my go-to player count? Definitely not. But past that, the 3 to 6 player count gives you a good experience all in all, and you can knock out a game of this in 15 minutes. I said that a game could take 45 minutes, and it could. At higher player counts, it absolutely could. But even at if you have people who know the game, playing this at a 5 or 6 player count, you will have people who are able to knock out a game in 30 minutes. It is a quick, fast-moving, variable point-scoring game. It doesn't do anything innovative, but what it does well. As far as what I don't like in the game, first of all, I mentioned this already, 2 player count is a little fiddly. I find there are so many point scoring optimization games out there that work well at a variety of player counts. The fact that this doesn't work at 2 is kind of a bit of a dent against it, or a strike against it. The counter to that is many of these other scoring games don't work as well at 5 or 6, and this does give you a good 5 or 6 player experience, so there is that pro and con aspect. And then, like I said already, the lack of text on cards is just I understand why. I do not like it at all. I don't like looking down at your cards, and I mean, this looks very nice, the end result. It's a better end result. But while you're playing, you have to constantly reference your player rate, especially those first few games, to remember, not necessarily I remember everything, but even something as simple as, I find myself looking at, okay, I know that stream scores for most and second most, but I don't remember what it was. I mean, it's 8 and 5 points, but I had to double check just to be sure I say that correctly. So things like that, even if you know basically what a card does, the details aren't there. I wish they just had text on cards. I don't know. Either way, not the end of the world at all, but I would have preferred text on cards. As far as what I can see others not liking, first of all, being stuck with that last card in the drafting round is sometimes not fun. The rest of the time you have a degree of control, but especially as you get to the very end, meaning the last card in a hand of 10 cards is not great, but the last card in a hand of 20 cards, meaning when you're down to your final card placement, there's just no control. It is what it is, and that can be a little bit frustrating, having one player have a card that works perfectly for what they're doing, and having another player get a dead meadow which does nothing for them because that's just 0 points over there. That can be a little frustrating. I'll say that scoring itself can be a little bit of a drag considering how short and accessible and fast the game is. The scoring is a little slower to get through. I mean, both of them have a scoring pad. It goes through easily enough, but I'd say that, the game can, if you're playing a 3-player game, you can knock out a game in 20 minutes and then spend 6 minutes scoring it, so that ratio could be a little bit off. As far as final thoughts on Ecosystem, and again, Ecosystem Coral Reef as well, I like it. It does not do anything amazing for me. It does not do anything innovative for me. It takes a system that works well. It gives you a bunch of things to consider, 11 cards with different ways that they work together, and then it forces you to figure out how they work together, which is fitting for the name Ecosystem. So it doesn't inspire, it doesn't do anything amazing. I don't think of this as a game that I'm like, you have to play that game, but I do enjoy it, and it's a small box size, and it plays quickly, and it teaches quickly, and it travels well, so it has a lot of things in its favor, despite the fact that it's not doing anything new or amazing or incredible, but it just works well. The small box size, the large player count, the price point, all of it just works well for what it's doing. It's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I like the experience that it gives me, and I yeah, I like the experience it gives me. It's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, if you're looking for another small box experience that handles a variety of player counts very well, while giving you a bunch of points scoring to consider, a Splitto from 25th Century Games is a new favorite of mine that I'm really enjoying. It just forces you to pass cards back and forth around the players and create your own little shared pools of cards as you work with the player on your left and your right to try to efficiently score as efficiently as possible. Very, very charming game, works very well at a variety of player counts, and just really enjoying it so far. And similar to this one, the 2-player mode is more of a variant than the actual way to play. And then secondly, if you're looking for another nature-themed game of trying to create the perfect patterns, one that works very well at 2 players but does not play 5 and 6, Cascadia from Flat Out Games is going to be another completely different approach to the point scoring mechanism and one of my favorites in the genre. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.